Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Flight Simulator 2020. Microsoft have recently released some information, albeit relatively short pieces. A user this week has leaked around about 50 minutes of alpha footage onto the internet from the game, and the dev team very briefly discusses the current situation with alpha. So we're going to get into that right now. Let's get to it. But before we get to that, let's very quickly discuss the current development update. We're expecting one to arrive on the 6th of February. Unfortunately, that didn't arrive. Now, Microsoft said that the delay here is due to unforeseen circumstances, but they also mentioned further into their update that some of the delay is due to wanting to include the recent alpha feedback into the snapshot, and that's something they haven't been able to do just yet, so hopefully we should see some more information in the coming days. They've also said that episode 6 of their feature discovery series, this is a series that gives us very deep insight into how the game's being developed, is on schedule and should be arriving pretty soon. Episode 6N is going to focus on airports and how Microsoft go around building them and implementing them into Flight Sim. Also, while we're talking about future updates, the development roadmap preview is something that's coming up on the 13th of February. So hopefully we're about to have a bit of a look at that very soon now. It seems then that the 13th of February is shaping up to be a very busy day for Microsoft Flight Simulator, as Microsoft have targeted that date to release a new timeline for increasing the number of participants in the current alpha. And talking of alpha, right here are a bunch of new screenshots that have come from alpha users. Microsoft have released these. One screenshot in particular that interests me is the shot of the animals here in the background. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen animals in a Flight Simulator screenshot. A very early on screenshot shows a whole flock of flamingos, and you can see that right here. Of course, with these being still screenshots, it's very hard to judge how these will actually look when it comes to seeing them physically move in. But nonetheless, the very fact that they're even included here is a testament to the level of detail that's going into the game. Another screenshot from the current batch that I found particularly interesting was the external cam view here, with the cockpit heads-up display on screen, basically meaning you can fly the planes here without a problem, as most of the relevant information is visible. Moving on to the leaked alpha footage then. Very recently, a YouTuber named Jose Carlos released around about 50 minutes worth of alpha footage of Flight Simulator 2020. Now, I'm going to respect the Microsoft NDA here, although I'm not under NDA myself, but I don't want to actually include the footage on this particular video. But if you do want to see it for yourself, then do check out the information in the video description below, because it will tell you exactly how to go and find it. It's also likely that Microsoft will get that footage pulled from YouTube, as obviously it is under NDA, and so it shouldn't really have been posted. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about it very briefly in the video here. So the footage that was on show, it seemed to be that the user was in relatively low settings, low to medium settings, as the quality of the footage that was on display, despite being filmed in 720p, didn't seem to have the graphical fidelity of the footage we've come to see from the official Microsoft releases. Of particular note to me were some of the cloud formations, which didn't seem to be quite so profoundly volumetric as what we've seen, and some of the ground details. When the person was flying low to the ground, you can see the ground texture was extremely low resolution. And there were a number of issues like this throughout the footage. Another example would be that some of the ground areas, some of the ground mesh seemed to be rather flat, and this went on to the horizon in the similar vein to many recent and previous flight simulators that have been released over the years. But all that said, there was also some very impressive areas in the footage. Now, I'm sure many of you will go and look at the leaked footage, hopefully before it's pulled, and others will no doubt have already seen it. So if you have seen it, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Do let me know what you think. Also, I feel it's very important to stress that a number of factors were obviously going on here. So what was released was obviously from the alpha, meaning that a number of features may either be slightly lower than to be expected or what's been put on show, and some of them may have not yet been enabled. It's also worth pointing out that we don't know these PC specs that the user was using or what graphical settings they were using, and in addition to all that, we don't know what internet connection the user actually had. After all, we are aware that the internet does play a big part in the graphical capabilities of what you're seeing on screen. So whilst the leaked footage is certainly very interesting to check out, and there is a lot of it to check out, I really do feel as though it should be viewed with a cautious eye, as there's a lot of unknowns involved there. But nonetheless, it's certainly very interesting. Again, do have a look at the information in the video description, which will take you straight to the relevant areas. That then brings us to an end of this episode. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys and girls next time.